And if you don't have dynamic pricing, just any kind of dynamic pricing, you're leaving a lot of revenue on the table. Now, hopefully you watched the first video to see what Maui Life Realty is all about. If you haven't, I encourage you to click on the first video in this series and watch it. Now, one of the key ways that we embrace this enhanced technology available to our industry now is to increase our revenue and that revenue generation. And there's 4 ways that we tackle this. First is our distribution channels. Second is our CRM system or customer retention management system. And third, our revenue management. And lastly, our digital marketing efforts. Now, distribution is so important. You know, when you're driving revenue to your property, pricing has a huge impact, but your prices don't get out there unless you have visibility. So visibility is as bit of every importance as your pricing strategy, because the more eyes on your property, the more chance you have to get it booking. And VRBO and Airbnb have been the industry leaders up to this point, but there's a lot of other platforms that are now start getting more and more competitive with how much opportunity there is in the industry. That just to be on Airbnb and VRBO now is good, but you're leaving a lot on the table by only using those 2 platforms. Now, our distribution channels go beyond that. We get about 30% of our bookings from VRBO, about 20% from Airbnb. We get 37% on our direct website, MauiLifeRealty.com, and then the other percentage comes from these other platforms. And that allows us to get as many eyes as possible on your property so that we can maximize our pricing strategies. Now, second, our CRM and phone system. Whenever a guest inquires from any of these properties, they're usually looking at more than just your listing. So saving that guest information in our inquiries and having more than one touch point with them to remind them of your property and keep it top of mind is essential to generating that inquiry into an actual booking that is going to go to your revenue source. So we do that through our CRM system so nobody falls through the cracks. And our phone system allows us to record all phone calls and keep a documented record of our past conversations with this guest so that it all is saved in our platform so that we know who this person is and we can help them along the entire way from booking and then transition even past that point to when they stay with us and then keeping them in our system as a repeat guest to retain them for future bookings. Now, third, our revenue management. This is where our pricing comes into place. Now, dynamic pricing is a real buzzword in our industry, and it's been used in airlines, hotels for years, and just in the last couple of years is now more available to vacation rentals and smaller operators. And if you don't have dynamic pricing, just any kind of dynamic pricing, you're leaving a lot of revenue on the table. But in Maui, our market's very unique in that a general cookie cutter dynamic pricing system isn't going to yield the same results as a customized system because there's so many variables here. You have a single resort, and within that resort, there's so many variables depending on what floor you're on, depending on if you're an oceanfront unit or just an ocean view unit, depending on if you're a ground level or a top level, and how updated your property is. There's too many variables to count that are going to impact what your property is going to rent for. Now, most dynamic pricing softwares, as I mentioned, are a cookie cutter approach where they just take a geographic radius to your property and set that to a pricing offset variable, and that's how they determine the pricing for your condo. Now, what this does is if you're one of the nicer properties in their geographic setting, you're going to be leaving money on the table because everybody else who doesn't have the same amenities and bonuses to their property that you have is going to bring your pricing down. So you'll find you're booked out super far in advance, more so than you have to be, because your rate is slightly under what the property's potential is. Now, if you're a lesser unit in this geographic radius, you're going to find your occupancy is less because this algorithm is going to price you just slightly too high. Now you're going to be jeopardizing your occupancy. So in the busy seasons, you're going to fill up just fine, but in the slow seasons, your occupancy is going to suffer. Now, what we do is different. We are able to actually set a customized comp set. So for every property we manage, we hand select the comparable properties. And this goes into our comp set pricing. So from the properties that we select that we feel are a real comparable property to your condo, those are the only properties that our software is going to take into consideration when we're actually choosing a price for your property. And then we combine that with the general market seasonal data and say, okay, when it's busy season, high season, we can sit in this range in our comp set and we're not leaving money on the table. When it's slow season, we need to be in this range of the comp set so we can prioritize occupancy. And those factors help us maximize the maximum absolute potential for your property's earnings. And we combine that with our length of stay management because that varies based on gaps. If you have certain gaps in your calendar, you're going to jeopardize occupancy and so on. So all of that's taken into account, as well as our dedicated revenue manager I meet with on a weekly basis. And we go through every single property that I manage on a weekly basis to make sure that everything is working as it's supposed to, because there's nothing better than the human eye combined with a powerful tech package. Now, lastly, our digital marketing efforts. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we're right now generating 37% of our bookings on our own website. And that comes from repeat guests as well as our own PPC campaigns that we have on Google, on Facebook, and so on, our email marketing, and then our high converting website that drives our guests from seeing our website to actually booking with us. Now, if you have any more questions on revenue management, please give me a call. My phone number is going to be in the link below. Fill out our form. I'd love to talk to you to see if we'll be a good fit for your vacation condo.